Release of the Kentucky Student Voice Team's Race to Learn report. We are here today to share with you the voices of thousands of Kentucky middle and high school students on a sensitive and significant subject that is especially relevant for the folks in the building behind me, Kentucky policymakers. My name is Pragya Upreti. I'm a senior at Lafayette High School in Fayette County and a co-leader and research lead of the Kentucky Student Voice Team, an independent nonprofit organization, and we comprise a group of over 100 self-selected young people from across our state, co-creating more just, democratic Kentucky schools and communities as education research, advocacy, and policy partners. So what exactly is this research we're releasing today? Well, the Race to Learn study was a student-driven initiative launched in the midst of heated local and national conversations about whether and how to discuss issues related to race and ethnicity in schools. The goal was to capture the ongoing experiences of Kentucky youth to better inform public discourse around the subject and help ensure that it's more student-centered. Specifically today, we are sharing results from our Race, Ethnicity, and School Climate Survey, inspired by our previous school and state-level school climate research, including a series of student-led school climate audits that we've conducted since 2016, and of course, our 2020 Coping with COVID, a student-to-student study. It was refined by the young people behind me and adults within and beyond our team who provided extensive feedback ahead of its dissemination. The survey window opened to the public on December 10th, 2021, and when it closed 2 weeks later, 10,725 students responded from 114 of Kentucky's 120 counties. We relied on an extensive network of students, families, teachers, administrators, researchers, and community leaders to target individuals and groups who were underrepresented in the responses after the first few days of dissemination. And our results mirror the racial, ethnic, and geographic diversity of our state. Our survey focuses on 6 broad themes derived from our quantitative results and includes a range of student voices from our open response questions that were analyzed and distilled by our research team. So with that context, I want to prime you with exactly what you're about to hear. In the next 20 minutes or so, we will share what we found in a pretty structured way. One at a time, 6 of our 26 high school researchers will share a general theme, a key fact or two that emerged from our research, and just a few of the many related student voices we captured in our report on this subject. Presenting the highlights of our report in this way is how we aim to share the head and the heart of what we found. And now, on to finding 1. Emma Nesmith from Boyle County, the mic is yours.
Thank you, Pragya. Finding 1 has to do with confronting racism. We found in our Race to Learn study that nearly half of Kentucky students, including white students and students of color alike, express that racism is a prevalent issue that schools need to address. Fact: 46% of Kentucky students report that their school needs to do more to confront racism. Voice: Black Fayette County senior. I wish they would stop ignoring the topic and stop beating around the bush, like nothing happened. It's like someone saying, I don't see color, but you're ignoring the fact that I am someone of color. If you don't see color, you don't see me. Voice: Rowan County junior, white. It's not fair to African Americans and minorities in schools to have to wait when they've been waiting their whole life to just feel appreciated at school. White students are not oppressed. The real oppression is white people. We are fragile when discussing what our problems are, so we don't want to talk about it. Being fragile makes it worse because you can't call someone openly racist, or they'll get angry or defensive. All I'm saying is something must be done. Try something. Voice: Caldwell County 7th grader, black. I could pinpoint all the racist teachers in this school right now. We are all people, and we are all equal. Stop the hate and racism. Next up is Abraham Garcia Romero from Ohio County.
Study found a significant number of Kentucky's students of color feel underrepresented in what they learn in school. Fact: about half of students of color report that their racial or ethnic group is rarely or never represented in textbooks, posters, or in other materials in their class. Additional facts: 1/3 of all respondents say they never have the opportunity to talk about their own experiences with race in class. 53% of students say their teachers rarely or never talk about issues related to race or ethnicity in the classroom. And yet 82% of students of color say that their race or ethnicity is an important part of their identity, and 61% of white students say the same. Voice: Fayette County senior, Black. We barely talk about Black history, unless it's Black History Month. And we shouldn't just be important for only a month. Voice: Clay County sophomore, White. This is pointless. I'm white, so of course it's going to be represented in textbooks because we ruled the world for hundreds of years. Voice: Rowan County freshman, White and Black. As a person of color, going into a classroom where you don't feel welcome half the time is pretty rough. And I don't think they consider what all we experience outside of school, let alone on the inside. That's finding 2. For finding 3, we'll go to Minal Nazir from Jefferson County.
Thank you, Abraham. Finding 3 has to do with perceptions of equitable rule enforcement. Our survey results indicate that a significant number of Kentucky students perceive racial or ethnic bias in the way rules are enforced in school. Fact: roughly 1 in 5 students report that rules are rarely or never fairly enforced for students of different racial and ethnic backgrounds. For students of color, this number raises to about 1 in 4%. Voice: Pendleton County senior, White. Regarding the rules being fairly enforced, there have been a few cases involving students of color, primarily Black, in which administration immediately assumed that they were guilty of whatever incident occurred without investigating first. Black students that get into fights are almost always given a more severe punishment, even if they did not start the fight. Voice: Henderson County 6th grader, White. In one of my classes, the teacher gives more of a punishment to one of the Black students in the class, but takes it easy on the white kids. Voice: Robertson County freshman, White. I can't think of a thing that my school does to support students of different races or ethnicities. White students can be openly racist and receive no punishment whatsoever. It is so excused to be racist, which is absolutely horrible. Voice: Pike County junior, Asian. A lot of teachers don't openly talk about racial issues or call it out. We had a couple students who were saying white power and we are the superior race, and nothing was done about it, even though many students reported it. And nothing is done when white students say the N-word. Next up is Finding 4, which will be presented by Cadence Brown, a student from Marshall County.
Thank you, Minal. Finding 4 centers on racial and ethnic exclusion. For this, we found in our study that too many Kentucky students contribute to a school climate that feels exclusive to students of color. Fact: 1 in 3 respondents report that they often hear students make insensitive comments about the race or ethnicity of other students in school. Voice: Hardin County senior, White and Black. I wish they would understand how much actually goes on as a person of color in high school. Every day, it's like insensitive and racist comments flying at me all the time, and I still have to put my head down and do my work. Voice, Ohio County sophomore, Hispanic. The racist comments and slurs I hear made by my peers create an uncomfortable environment. Voice, Pike County Junior, Southeast Asian. I wish they understood how hard it is to walk the halls without hearing something racist or a white student saying slurs. Voice, Christian County Senior, Black. As students of color, we are not always treated the same and we have very negative stereotypes. Many peers of mine are racist towards me because of the color of my skin, but when I confront them, I am in the wrong. In all honesty, people of color are not asking for a lot, but just to be treated like our white peers while we can still be ourselves. And with that, I'll pass it to Tala Saad from Oldham County.
Thank you, Cadence. Our fifth finding has to do with teacher diversity. In this area, we found that generally both white students and students of color are missing out on the benefits of a diverse teaching staff. Fact: 39% of Kentucky students of color report that since kindergarten, they have never had a teacher of a similar racial or ethnic background. Additionally, we found a correlation between students who have never had a teacher of a similar racial or ethnic background and expressing a lack of belonging in their school. Voice, Henderson County sophomore, white and black. Most of my teachers are white. I have had barely 4 teachers of different races. Whenever I bring up topics of race, some teachers of mine try to get away from the subject like I shouldn't talk about it, or like I'm overreacting. Voice, Henderson County sophomore, black. The schools need all different races of teachers so they can relate to their students that are the same race as them, because the white teachers don't go through what different races go through. Voice, Harlan County Junior, white. I'm from a small town in the South that is historically predominantly white, even though ethnicity has varied due to it being a coal mining town. I've only had one teacher in my entire school with a different racial identity than me. For our last finding, we go to Ryan Madett from Jefferson County.
Thank you, Tala. The last finding we'll share with you today, finding 6, has to do with racial and ethnic conversation beyond the classroom. The thousands of students who responded to our survey in December led us to believe that despite what is taught or not taught in the classroom, Kentucky students are learning and talking about race and ethnicity beyond it. Fact: nearly half of all students report that they regularly have conversations with each other about race and ethnicity outside of the classroom. And furthermore, fact: 3/4 of students surveyed report not having not just one, but several friends of races and ethnicities different from their own. This rises to 84% for students of color. Voice, Marshall County, senior, white. As a white student, I feel like I'm treated better by other white students than they would treat students of color. I hardly see white students socialize with students of color, especially students with darker skin tones, outside class. Voice, Ohio County, sophomore, white. Even though I'm white, I realize my privilege and know that these topics are important. And when I try to start conversation about these things, I get shut down and told I can say anything because I'm white, even though I have educated myself. Voice, Fayette County, junior, white. Our school has done a decent job of discussing race and attempting to build an equitable environment for students of color. However, less conversation is not what we need. Having listened to my peers of color, I've realized there is still work to be done, and we accomplish this through conversation, which is the only thing that creates action. If we are restricted from having these conversations, we are restricted from attempting to bring about positive change. You've now heard our 6 key findings outlining some of the challenges Kentucky schools face in confronting issues around race and ethnicity in school. That we choose to release this report here in Frankfort, where policymakers meet, is no accident. We now want to share a few recommendations we have for people in power to help address these challenges. Nora Lauder came to us today all the way from Logan County, Kentucky, and so we'll give her the honor in doing just that. Nora.
Thank you, Ryma. So with all of this quantitative and qualitative data, what should a good policymaker do to improve school climate for Kentucky students of all racial and ethnic backgrounds? Fortunately, we have a number of suggestions that emerge straight from Kentucky students themselves. For administrators and policymakers interested in making our schools more safe, inclusive, and engaging so students of all racial and ethnic backgrounds can learn at high levels, student researchers from the Kentucky Student Voice team offer a number of targeted recommendations in the Race to Learn report. Here are just a few of them. For administrators and policymakers, Recommendation 1, recruit and be intentional about supporting more ethnically and racially diverse teachers. Recommendation 2, foster safe, inclusive environments that encourage students to be open-minded and vulnerable and repair relationships when they make mistakes. Recommendation 3, establish feedback mechanisms that allow students to report issues specifically around racial bias without fear of repercussion. Recommendation 4, facilitate discussions about difficult issues around race and ethnicity both in the classroom and in less formal school spaces. Students are already having these conversations in less structured spaces and could benefit substantially from the knowledge and facilitation skills that great classroom teachers provide. Recommendation 5, take reports about school discipline discrepancies across race and ethnicity seriously. Publicly acknowledge the problem if there is one, and invite students, families, and teachers to help find solutions in an intergenerational community. Recommendation 6, support training for teachers to learn across unconscious bias and how they might be unfairly treating their students of different racial and ethnic backgrounds without realizing it. At the same time, be sure to create an environment for teachers to be able to improve the school and classroom environment for students of diverse backgrounds without feeling like they're being targeted. And lastly, recommendation 7, solicit feedback about school climate and the extent to which students feel safe and included from all students, but with extra intentionality around students from different racial and ethnic backgrounds. Our team learned so much doing this research, and we share some of those reflections in the report. But since some of those researchers are with us right now, we'll have 3 members of the team share them in their own very brief words just to give you a taste. Tamira Johnson from Jefferson County, we'll start with you.
Thank you, Mom. Among what I learned was this: race and ethnicity are a part of our identity, and when we are not able to have conversations about race or be properly educated on race in our schools, which are supposed to be a safe place, then how can we teach ourselves to accept these differences and new ideas? If we don't get taught about these lessons in school, then how do schools expect us to learn to have these conversations ourselves? It felt great to see students' responses and help provide a platform that cares about their opinions. It's important that students leave this work because at the end of the day, it affects us directly and will continue affecting us throughout our lives until we become part of the change. Next up is Abraham Garcia Romero.
Thank you, Tamira. So in doing this work, part of our mission was to give a platform to as many Kentucky middle and high school students as we could, yes, but most especially to those Kentucky youth who tended to be the least heard in our classrooms. With tremendous support from our team, and to that end, I was able to disseminate our survey to my very rural community of Ohio County. In doing this, we gave a platform to 100 plus students in that area to express how they truly felt about some really challenging issues. I felt incredibly lucky to work on analyzing the data and having a deeper understanding of what students felt and needed with a whole group of other students from across the state. I know what we have accomplished here will have an impact on generations to come. You and your reflections are up next Kira Kusateri from Boyle County.
Thank you, Abraham. What really stood out to me was that there were several white students that feel uncomfortable asking questions about different races in the classroom, even though they are genuinely curious about different cultures. But the fear that they will be perceived as racist or insensitive, as well as classroom environment that does not encourage conversation, stops them from asking those questions. And I think it's interesting that we hear lots of arguments about teaching uncomfortable topics like racism, but what I took away from this survey was that the real discomfort comes from not teaching those subjects, and setting up students for a more difficult adult life where they continue to feel out of place asking questions. And handing it to you now, Vivi Weaver from Garrett County and then to Pragya to bring us back home.
Thank you, Kira, and also to Myra and Abraham. The rationale behind our Race to Learn study is threefold. First, by surfacing student stories and statistics, we hope to provide insight that can guide education makers to be more responsive to the needs of students through and well beyond the current legislative session. Second, by sharing this research, we also hope to bridge the empathy gap between and among students and the adults who support them. And third, by operating as a transparent, inclusive, and collaborative team, and by documenting our process, we hope to provide a model for how young people and other stakeholders can act as citizen researchers to ensure more just and democratic schools and communities. And we'll end with you, Pragya.
Thanks, Vivi. Of course, there is so much more to this study, and fortunately, our Race to Learn reports are hot off the press, and we have them readily available for you here. We have copies on hand today, and you can also find them on our Twitter at KYStudVoice or on our website at KentuckyStudentVoiceTeam.org. The full report includes additional findings, recommendations, our detailed methodology, and crucially, reflections that you've already heard a little bit of today from our team about pretty incredible youth-led research processes. We hope in taking all of this in that you will let it shape your thinking in Kentucky's continued conversation about what young people need to ensure more culturally relevant schools and more just and democratic ones too. Our team's going to remain on site for interviews and any additional questions, but thank you in the meantime for joining us today and for letting us, just for one moment even, speak youth to power on the race to learn more about race, ethnicity, and school climate in Kentucky.